Hey everybody, welcome back to Escape Reality Star Wars Talk. I'm your host Caleb.
Hello, I'm Seth.
Alright, we are here to talk about High Republic stuff, but also Grogu and some Star Wars news. We have a well-rounded amount of stuff to talk about. So let's get into the news.
Alright.
So, The Acolyte,
Yeah?
the show you and I are most excited about, they officially announced all of the cast members, and they officially announced kind of what their filming schedule is going to be. So apparently it's going to come out about the same time as Andor Season 2.
Okay.
So they're going to start filming around the same time, which Andor Season 2 starts filming on the 21st
Of this year?
of this month, yeah. And so, and as for cast, a lot of the stuff that we've heard, true. Amanda Stenberg, lead. Lee Jung-jae, who people know from Squid Games. He's in it.
Okay.
Daphne Keane, who we talked about last week, officially in it. Carrie Ann Moss, so Trinity from The Matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a few other good choices. You got Charlie Barnett, Manny Jacinto, Jodie Turner-Smith, Rebecca Henderson, Dean Charles Chapman. So that's who we've got announced. Obviously, we don't know who they are in this. There's a lot of people already creating their own ideas of who's playing what. Lee is likely a Jedi Master because we also had like a little description of the show. Let me pull that back up.
Yeah.
The Acolyte is a mystery thriller that will take viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. A former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but the forces they confront are more sinister than they ever anticipated. So people are assuming that Lee's going to play the Jedi Master, and then a lot of assumption is that Daphne Keane will be the Padawan. And then Carrie Ann Moss is being... Fans are speculating that Carrie Ann Moss is going to play the Sith Master, and Manlis Steinberg, for the most part, has already been confirmed as... Like, it's not officially confirmed, but a lot of the rumors have heavily implied that she's the Acolyte of the title of the show. And so I gave my own thoughts on my Twitter account, by the way, of what I think should go down. If you want to see that, that's Escape Reality 94 on Twitter. But yeah, I gave my own thoughts of what I think... What I wouldn't be surprised to see go down. Obviously, it's just a fun little hypothetical. I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to go down, and I'm not going to be angry if it's not what happens, you know? We also got the Obi-Wan Kenobi writer Andrew Stanton on writing with... that's an interview. He got interviewed by... We're looking at Star Wars Newsnet, as we normally do, to kind of get our quick recap on the news. There was another one I saw. Oh yeah, Deadpool 3 director Sean Levy in talks to direct a Star Wars movie. This is all still early talks, nothing concrete, you know. So not too much to talk about yet. We also haven't seen Deadpool 3, so we can't compare it. You know, we can't be like, oh yeah, that feel. You know, we can't really talk much in comparison to that.
I saw the fucking advertisement for that.
Yep.
I'm happy.
J.D. Dillard reveals that his Star Wars project's no longer happening. Which is... So, let's talk about this, because this is a heavy topic of discourse within the Star Wars fandom. Thoughts on directors leaving and coming into projects before they're out. Because we tend to hear about a lot of Star Wars films that are on the way, and then we also hear about them being not coming out.
Yeah.
Couple things I want to talk about regarding that. Fans feel like, oh, why are they doing so many projects at once? That's just the nature of the business. They're going to get a lot of people, and they're going to come up with ideas, and if they think the idea works, they're going to take them in and be like, yeah, let's try that idea. And if it doesn't work, then they'll get rid of them, or if the director feels like they don't want to be involved with the project, they'll move on. So the difference between a normal studio and Lucasfilm is that Lucasfilm has a little bit more eyes on it. Because people are saying, why is Lucasfilm announcing these things? They're not. Lucasfilm isn't announcing any of these.
Yeah.
These are reporters who are getting insider information, who are then reporting it to the masses. Realistically, this happens all the time within a normal studio day-to-day basis. Is director will come to a studio with a film idea, or a studio will come to a director for a film idea. Uh-oh.
I got yelled at.
Was your mom saying they can get into the mic?
Yeah, I need to get closer to the mic. That's what I got yelled at for.
It's funny she didn't call you out in the chat this time.
She's like, no, this one is a direct one.
But yeah, so like
I'm not
bitter
about it because I have a similar situation going on right now that I don't want to talk about.
Yeah, like, and so like, because it's a bigger studio and it's a bigger franchise, I think more eyes are on it, and people are automatically more like scrutinizing of it.
Yeah,
where they're like, oh, you shouldn't be doing all these. No, that's just a normal thing.
That's just how it works.
It's the same thing with reshoots. Remember, a few years back, people were all about getting angry when reshoots would happen for, like, Marvel films. And it's like, no, that's a normal routine thing for big-budget films, is to do reshoots. Like, you do the main film, and then you go back and see what works, and then you go, hey, we want a shot of this. Can we go get that? And usually you'll bring your actor back, and you'll do that. And usually in the contract, it's stipulated that you'll do that. And so that way the contract even says, hey, if we need to call on you, we can still call on you as an actor to still come in. Like, it's basically like being on call for a job. Like, you're done with the main work, but if we need you, we can bring you in. So, like, I think it's fine, because I think I would rather be hearing about them dropping people and bringing new people in more than I would of them just making whatever film. Like, I would rather them be talking about it than just going, hey, let's just make every film that anybody comes up with. Because that would be worse.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's fine.
Okay.
It's the same text. It just went off again.
Oh, okay. So, moving on. Asmodee.
Yeah.
JD would get mad at me if I say it wrong. Asmodee, the company that that's licensed out the board games for Star Wars stuff, the ones that are over Fantasy Flight. They have announced a new miniatures game called Star Wars Shatterpoint.
Oh.
It's a new miniature skirmish game that's supposed to be more along the lines of the Marvel one that's currently out, the main Marvel one. I forget what it's called. So
It doesn't tell me anything.
It's basically like a miniatures combat game. So I hope that these are miniatures I don't have to put together. I don't care if they're not painted. I'm fine with that. But if I have to put them together, I swear.
You're just over here like, you motherfuckers. Thank you for doing this, but also, damn you.
Because I like having miniatures, because I like my Star Wars miniatures, but I also don't want to have to... So let's see what they say. Hold on. Customize, create a Star Wars squad that is truly unique with beautifully sculpted and dynamic miniatures of identifiable characters that are ideal for dedicated hobbyists and new painters alike. Okay, so they say they're sculpted already. So that tells me... I don't know if that means that they just sculpted the parts and you still have to put them together. Strategize. The Shatterpoint game's fun and flexible squad building experience invites players to create custom strike teams optimized to complete the various mission objectives. So it sounds a lot like one that we've already had before. It sounds a lot like I forget which Star Wars game it was that we've got. It's out front because we shoot in the back of a our local gaming shop. So I'm trying to remember the name of the.
There is one that is very similar to what this sounds like.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is.
It's the one where they do have the pre-built characters for that one. Let's see. Players can choose thematic squads straight from a galaxy far, far away, like Ahsoka Tano and Bo-Katan Kryze, Lord Maul, and his loyalist super commandos, or mix and match their favorite characters to form the custom squads they want to play. Battle in the Shatterpoint point game. Players use their character's special abilities and diverse combat skills to control the flow of battle as they race against each other to complete dynamically evolving mission objectives. So it sounds interesting. Like I said, it sounds like ones that we've had before, just a new flair to it, I guess, is what they're going for.
Yeah.
Because it says they're going for more of an 80s and 90s, like, cartoon look, is what it shows in one of the interviews. Let me look. There's a video. It's an animated video. I'm trying to see. Okay, these look fully built, but they're also painted, but I don't know if that's how they come.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and it has like little flat pieces for them to stand on too.
I see.
So it's looking kind of like a mix between the two games that are out front. Because there's Legion, where you have to put them together, and then there's the other one that I'm trying to remember where you don't. And the Legion has more of that the same type of padding at the bottom. It looks all right. My problem is it will probably be expensive. Because miniature games, like full games, are pretty expensive. There was something else. There was, I think, one more thing I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one more thing. Dave Filoni and Kathleen Kennedy. So Dave Filoni, guy that does Clone Wars and Rebels and a Mandalorian, right?
Yeah.
Kathleen Kennedy, the executive producer of Lucasfilm. They recently met with the executive producer for the guy who did Star Wars Resistance. So we don't know what was discussed, but more than likely that means that a show is probably in the works, because you don't tend to meet with executives like that aren't doing a show anymore for you unless you're talking about something. So I'd be interested. I think Resistance, it almost got to where it needed to, but it like stopped short just before it was like the show that that I think it could have been. All right, and that's it for news. So they surprised us today.
Yeah, they did.
Not really surprised. Like, we knew a few days ahead that it was coming out, but one, we didn't know who the studio behind it or what it was. So the Zen, Grogu, and Dust Bunnies came out today, and it's a very short film, like 2-3 minutes, and it's from Studio Ghibli.
By fucking Dust Bunnies today.
Yeah, it's from Studio Ghibli.
But I'm gonna.
So it's just
the end of the show.
So it's just Grogu meditating, and then he gets attacked by these fuzzy creatures.
Yeah.
And then like they're like, no, we're friends actually. Here's a flower. And then that's it.
Yep.
Thoughts?
I didn't think they were attacking him. I thought they were.
Well, like they bumped into him, and he thought he was being attacked. Because he cried.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he cried when they first hit him. Because he was in his little meditation thing, and then they bumped into him and got him out of it, and then he cried a little bit, and then he ran away from them thinking that they were after him. That's how I interpreted it anyways.
That's not how I interpreted it at all.
And then eventually they're like, here's a flower, we're friends.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're not pleased, but you're not dissatisfied by it.
Yeah, like it's cute. And like I think it's drawn well, because it's studio, it is who it is, right?
Yeah.
It's Miyazaki. But it also feels like it's the kind of short film that you turn, like the kind of short animation that you would turn in for a school project for like your college course animation class. You're like, hey, I got like a week to make this animated film. Let me go ahead and make this for my class. At least get an A-, A+. Like,
what was the thing I said? I can't get you a masterpiece, but I can get you a passing grade.
Yeah, like it's like I can get a passing grade with this. But I'm not gonna, like, this isn't something I would put into, like, that I normally wouldn't send to major studios, I would think. But, Like, it's drawn, once again, it's not the art. It's just the... What was this? Once again, though, I don't hate it. I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
You know? And I think I'm not the only one in this position. Like, I've looked at Twitter, and a few of my mutuals are kind of, like, in that same position of, like, this isn't bad, but what was this?
Yeah.
And so, like, I like them using using Grogu's motif, but they, like, wind chime it and synthesize it a little bit. Like, that's Grogu's motif. I like the way the music is used. I like the art style. I thought it was cute. Overall, it's fine. But that's it. It's just fine.
Yeah. God, man.
Is that where you're kind of at?
I wish I could respond with more energy right now, but
Yeah.
I cannot.
I'd put it at a 7.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay. Let's get into the main topic. I just wanted to talk about that first because it just came out and we were like, it's short. We might as well just attach it to this episode.
Yep.
It's also not anything major to canon, so, like...
Welcome back to the High Republic,
Well,
baby.
yeah, welcome back to... Well, we've been here for a little bit. We haven't really left.
Yeah.
So we are going to talk about the short story, Tales of Enlightenment, New Prospects, Part 1 and 2.
Yep.
Written by George Mann, who we tend to like. George Mann's pretty good. We have not read a full book from him yet, but we've gotten a lot of his short stories, and, you know...
He tends to do fairly well.
Yeah, like, nothing's bad. So this one takes place on the planet of Jeddah,
Yeah.
which is interesting because of the whole Andor stuff going on TV-wise, and then Jeddah is becoming prominent in the High Republic right now. And,
Yep.
yeah. And so...
What is it?
We meet this character who's working for the Temple of the Kyber, but he's not like he's not a Force user.
No.
He just happens to...
He just works there.
Yeah. I just work here.
Yeah. He's not just a tourist.
No. His name is Keth Sarapath.
Yeah. I fucking almost called him Keith.
Keith, the Star Wars character. Great. Love it. But Keth goes to this local cantina that he goes to all the time.
Yeah.
Called the Enlightenment. Hence, Tales of Enlightenment.
Yep.
And
So he's a regular there.
yeah, him and his friends.
Several other people.
Uh,
To the point where the bodyguards the bouncers out front recognize him.
Yep.
And don't question it. This also, like, you and I have had this discussion before, but what is the legal drinking age in Star Wars?
At the very least, like 16, because like
we know
remember,
it's a lot lower.
yeah, because remember, our buddy, not Dez, Wreath. Remember, Wreath
Yeah.
did his drinking like before he left.
Yeah.
And
But I also feel like Dez would have gone in anyway.
Dez would have been the one that bought the drink. Like, if it was illegal, Dez would be the one that's the 21-year-old bringing the drinks for all the underage folks.
Yep.
Like, Dez has that vibe. Dez is Matthew McConaughey in Dazed and Confused. But not the girls underage part.
God.
Not the high school girls part, but the drinking and hanging out with high schoolers part.
Yeah.
Like, Dez has that vibe to me.
Yeah. He definitely has a similar vibe to that, except he is a character who's been living in, like, on a planet where politics and poisoning happen all the time.
Yeah.
So he's got, like, that level of responsibility.
But
And then he comes back home
Yeah.
for, like, his little brother's graduation party for that book.
Yep.
Which is the setup of that book
Yeah.
a little bit. But that's where we'll stop talking about that.
Yeah, because we have an
It's not
episode
gonna
of that.
happen for another 200 years.
We also have an episode of that already.
Yeah.
It's our episode on Into the Dark.
Yep.
I think it's our 3rd episode.
Yeah, I think it is.
So, let's get back to this story, though.
Yes.
So in this story, Keth, along with his droid, try to enter. He knows that his droid can't go in, but he tries anyways, and they're like,
Not because droids aren't allowed, but because this one has caused
fights.
a shit ton of fights. So they're like, hey.
It's not that we don't allow droids, it's just your droid in particular is a problem.
Yeah. It's like, you can't bring your friend in, the one that's caused 7 fights in the last 6 months.
Yeah. It's where, like, we know you enough to know not to bring this friend in.
Yeah.
And so, he meets with his friends who are, like, trying to, like, just basically pass time.
Yeah, they're having a if-then, what-do.
Yeah. And that's when they meet, the bartender and the owner walks up to them and is like, hey, there's this pirate chick that's been, like, frequenting here lately.
Yeah.
And she's got some cool stories if y'all want to hear. And so, like, he does, like, some... And, of course, Keth is like, yeah, I want to hear some Jedi stories, because, like, I work with them, but I don't see them ever, and I don't know what they do.
I know that they work. I know that they are around and in the building I work at.
Yeah.
But I've never met one.
Like, and I don't know exactly what they do. Like, I don't know their thing.
Yeah. I know they go out and help people.
And that's about it.
Yeah.
And so, the bartender makes the introductions, and the trying to find her name. Saretha. Saretha sits down and is like, hey, how's it going? Give me some drinks and I'll tell you some stories.
Yep. It's just like, I have a story for you that involves a Jedi, some
pirates, and
getting eaten alive.
Yeah. And they're like, you sure that's facts? And she's like, yeah, here you go.
Yep.
Give me some drinks and we'll get this going. And so she tells this story about, finding his name right now.
Not necessarily the worst Jedi, but a Jedi who made some choices.
Like it's so like so sorry, she's not a pirate. She's a prospector. She's a hyperspace prospector, which is, we've discussed this kind of before on the show, but for those that are new, it's basically people that discover hyperspace routes.
Yeah.
So they're the ones that go do the dangerous hyperspace jumps, not knowing if they'll get out on the other side.
Yes. And this is a very dangerous thing to do, because if you fuck it up, you
could end up in a sun, you could just end up in an asteroid and blown up. Yeah. Like, there's different outcomes.
It's risky.
Yeah. You could just
Which is why
crash into a planet.
The great hyperspace disaster was probably the worst thing that could happen.
Yes and no.
Sometimes.
Yeah, because now the routes that people knew were, like, compromised.
Yeah.
And on top of that, now everybody had to fly in real space, which takes forever.
Yeah.
Because hyperspace, you cut a month trip down to, like, maybe a week. But now you're back to it being a month.
Yep.
And that slows down supplies and everything. So that's why the great hyperspace disaster is it's a disaster. But yeah, so Saretha is somebody who explores that, and so she was off finding out this route that she's like, hey, this is a cool route, this is fast.
Yep.
But then she gets caught by pirates because pirates happen to be in the area where she was going.
Yep.
Where along the way she meets a Jedi who is also imprisoned with her in, like, the cell next to her. Like, they're not in the same cell, but they're like,
yeah.
And so,
and he's like,
Master Lee Haro.
And he's not worried about anything at all.
Yeah, in fact, so they end up getting into, like, they end up back in hyperspace, and it turns out that the pirates were dumb.
Yep.
They basically left the door unlocked. Like, Lee figured out a way to get out while they were gone. He's like, yeah, I can get out. And he left her there, and he was like,
he's like, fine, I guess. I'll go and do my job.
Yeah, because it turns out that where the pirates were going was where Lee wanted to go.
Yep.
And basically, instead of actually finding the hyperspace routes to get there himself, Lee was just like, I'll just hitch a ride with these pirates by getting captured and then free myself when I get there.
Yep.
But since Saritha was going a different direction, Lee is like, fine, I'll help you.
Yep.
Because I'm a Jedi and that's what we do.
Yep. He's like, they just left my lightsaber like right over there.
Yeah, they're idiots. And so, like, within an hour, he's taken over the ship, apparently. And so, yeah. And that's part 1.
Yep.
Part 2.
Part 2.
I'll let
Jungle.
Yeah, I'll let you take the lead on this.
So, part 2, after Haro has freed Saretha's like, hey, since I've kind of like botched your plan, do you want me to just take you instead? And he's like, yeah, sure. And so she does, and when they get there, it's like, there you go, and get to these like little ruins for a little bit, and he's like, okay. Saretha.
I read Saretha because it's Saretha.
Yeah.
So I say Saretha, but I think we don't have a vocal version, so whatever works.
Fine.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I don't understand. There doesn't seem to be anything really of value here, just some primitive like cave paintings. And so he's like, okay, this is good. We need to go in a little bit further though. So I'm gonna go on ahead. You can leave if you want. And then these, I'm going to call them not velociraptors.
Yeah, that's a good way of explaining them.
But I'm pretty sure they're fucking velociraptors.
They're Star Wars raptors.
Yeah. Once again, the wildlife in Star Wars is perhaps the most dangerous thing.
Yeah. As you were saying, though.
So, Saretha is like, fuck this, I'm leaving. And she tries to climb away. It does not work. As it turns out, not velociraptors have some very sharp claws. And she gets, like, wounded on her leg.
Yep.
But because a Jedi is there, they're able to... And we've gone over this.
There's force healing, but like in this case, he doesn't, like... He just kind of soothes it more than heals it. To a degree.
He doesn't do any of that
Oh, yeah,
shit.
because he does... Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because he's like... Like, we hear the stories of that, and they're like, I can't do that. Because not every Jedi can.
Yeah. And he's like, what I can do, though, is communicate with animals.
That's right. Which is also a thing.
Yeah, it's also one of the ones that's very hard to do.
Yeah, healing, animal communication, and psychometry are like the rare abilities.
It's very hard to do. You can learn it, but it's a lot easier if you're more naturally inclined.
Yeah, otherwise it's going to take up a lot of energy.
Yeah. And he is like, all right. He essentially is like, okay, we'll send the velociraptors away.
Ta-ta. See you later.
Bye. Shoo, go on.
So then they make camp.
Yep.
To let her leg rest. And also, probably a good time to make camp.
Yep.
Unfortunately, after all the camp is done and they avoid some other obstacles, the pirates come back. Because they want revenge.
Yep.
We're skipping a little bit, yeah. Because they go into...
skip past the earthworm.
Oh, yeah, the earthworm, yeah.
There's a big earthworm, they get swallowed. They find some stuff. He finds a crystal. He gives it to her. And then they're
which is important because she proves that her story's real by having that. Yep.
And so, after that, her leg is still wounded. So when the pirates show up, she's like, shit, there's like 9 of them and like 2 of us.
Yeah.
Now, while I am of the opinion that this would be an easy win for the Jedi if he was by himself, as you know, when you've been saddled with an escort mission, things get complicated.
Yeah.
But...
Stupid non-force user slowing everybody down.
Keep in mind, this story is told from the perspective
of the non-force user.
And this is something that, like, I'm like, this should be common knowledge, like, to the general galaxy at that point.
Yeah. But also Jedi, I would say this is a time where Jedi are still rare, and because we're in the Outer Rim. Jedda's Outer Rim territory. So we're talking about an area that hasn't been...
At this moment in time, yes.
Yeah.
However, later on in the future, I would say that people would generally know what a Jedi is.
Yeah, I would say like by the prequel era,
Yeah.
they will. But like the High Republic, I'd say even in Phase 1 era, Jedi are still a big mystery. And I would say even in the prequel era, I would say maybe only 50% of the galaxy population understand what a Jedi really is, and then the other 50% are like only from mythology and no actual like, because I would say 50% of the population have never run into a Jedi.
Yeah. But it's common enough that you would hear stories and be like...
But I would think it would end up being like tall tales sort of deal, where they hear about these great things that Jedi did, but in reality they did like maybe a fraction of what the story said.
Yeah, I know, but public appearance does do a lot.
Yeah.
It's why I think more people should be concerned, like, later on when they hear there's a Jedi in town. Or on planet.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh shit, then that means something actually bad is going on.
But yeah, as you were saying though, regarding the pirates,
Yeah.
they
get, using the power of the Force, he's like, I'm going to cast Summon Nature's Ally to have these velociraptors fuck up these pilots.
Yeah, the Strostodons is what they're called.
Strostodons. Yep.
But yeah, he's like, so he basically calls them back and is like, hey, you didn't eat us, but I got some food for you.
Yep. And they're like, the pirates are like, oh no,
Yep.
not raptors.
And they decide it's not worth it.
Yep, they're like, fuck it, we're gonna leave. Some of them do not make it out.
Yeah, because like Saritha like hints that some of them were eaten by the worm, and so on.
Yep.
And eventually, Keth is like, "Hey, can I see that rock? You know that you've been holding this entire time?" And Saritha's like, "Sure."
Yeah.
And so he looks at it, and it's she explains it's pure kyber.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, you can.
You can make a
Because
good.
Saretha's ship has been in repair because of the pirate attack.
Yeah, and so, and like that's part of why she's been like hanging here is she's like, I don't got the money for all the repairs yet,
Yeah.
and so like I'm just telling stories for money and drinks.
Yep.
And Keth is like, you can make a shit ton of money just from selling that.
Yeah, he's like, you can
Especially
make
here.
a fortune. So
And that's
come
when,
on, actually,
and so,
I'll take you to a place where you can sell it legitimately and get all the money.
and that's when Saretha's like, oh,
This motherfucker
This
knew the whole time.
Master Haro knew what he was doing when he gave me this.
Yeah, she's like,
He gave me this so I can make a profit off of this because otherwise I would have been fucked.
yeah. And I'm like,
Yeah.
we haven't met more of Haro, but I wouldn't be opposed to seeing more.
Yeah, like we haven't actually met him. We only heard a story from the perspective of a non-Force user, so very much a case of take it as you will,
Yeah.
grain of salt type of story. This we don't know how reliable Saritha is.
Yeah.
Seems pretty honest though.
Yeah.
For an Outer Rimmer, because usually
For an Outer Rimmer, huh?
for
You got something to say, Mr. Core Worlds?
no, but what I mean by that is like
I know.
spacers usually tell tall tales.
Yeah.
Especially on the Outer Rim, they're basically known
Yeah,
for
man.
tall tales. It's like when you go to a bar and you meet this biker. Of course, they're gonna tell a good story. They're gonna exaggerate it a little. There's gonna be a lot of facts in there, but there's gonna be a little bit of storytelling.
Yep.
And that's what you expect and want when you go to a spacer and they're like, "Hey, tell me about this really cool thing that you saw." It's why Han's whole I did the Kessel Run in 12
Oh, yeah.
12 parsecs is like That's a little bit sketchy. But like we've seen that it's not 100, like it's 90% true.
Yeah.
But there's that 10% that's Han just exaggerating it to make it a good story. And so that's what Saritha did. And so Keth kind of leads Saritha to the right place and is like, hey, I can show you where to go to sell that. And so
our story ends where it began. At Keth's workplace.
Yep. And that's it. And so I feel like this is going to be what... So I like this.
Yeah.
Because it's very much something that Star Wars used to do a lot of. And they kind of haven't in a minute. So there used to be a bunch of books back in Legends Day, the expanded EU days, expanded universe days.
Yeah.
Where they would release a bunch of short stories into books. And they would all be like themed to like a location or a group.
Yeah.
So like you have Tales of the New Republic. So there are tales that are set in the New Republic era and focus on like the foundings of the New Republic. You have tales of at Jabba's palace. Bunch of tales that are like around the idea of Jabba's palace and the people in it. So like Boba Fett and Dengar and stuff like that. I think this is that, but for this bar, and I love it.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the title is Tales of Enlightenment, and then New Prospects is the subtitle. Kind of like how I would argue. I guess we had that in the last phase with the Starlight Beacon stuff. Starlight was basically that as well, where it was just tales of stuff going on in Starlight, and all surrounding the characters of people who work there.
Yeah.
And I kind of like having these type of short stories again. And of course, Starlight is getting a hardcover copy where it's going to have all the short stories together, which is nice. And I hope they do the same thing with this when this is done, because I kind of like having these short stories collected in one place. It's something that I wish Titan, the ones who publish the Star Wars Insider magazine, I wish they had started doing sooner, but they have been doing well with, because they've done because we've had the collector. We've had volume 1 and 2 of just the entire collection of short stories they've done, but it's not every short story yet, but they've gotten a good chunk of their stories into 2 volumes, and I think a 3rd volume's on the way.
All right.
And so this is including Legends and canon stuff, because they've been doing Insider for a long time. And so I'm kind of excited for these type of stories. Enough that I think this is about an 8.
Okay, yeah.
Because I like the premise of just telling some tall tales at a bar.
Yep.
It's something that, because Scotty...
I don't think I've ever said the words core worlder with as much viciousness as that particular moment.
I think it was all in good jest. But yeah, because Scotty, JD, and I have talked about on the other podcast that I do, the My Star Wars Life for Mobcast Network, that we talked about, if we ever were to do a show, we want to do Cheers, but in Star Wars. That's essentially this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keith is going to the bar where everybody knows his name. Or Keth, but I had to say it.
Yep.
But Keth is going to the bar where everybody knows his name, and like everybody knows who he is, and they're like, "Yeah, we know you, and we know your stupid droid. We just can't come in here," because he starts fights. It's always like religious fights too. Like he's talking about like the Force. And,
oh, that's right. So, fun fact about Keth's droid. So
you forgot that fact, didn't you?
I forgot that the reason why is because it can only speak in like Old Testament, like religious terms.
Yeah.
So while it might be like trying to order a drink, what it says is something like blah 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 blah. I'm not actually gonna say anything because I don't.
But like because he's talking about like
it's like
Force religions,
like hard religious speak, like a Sunday sermon,
which is dangerous to do here because this is a planet where multiple religions live.
Yes.
And so obviously a lot of butting heads regarding religion.
Yeah. Enlightenment is supposed to be like neutral ground, where the other neutral ground where this one is like, listen, man, I just want to drink right now. I don't. Because the other thing that goes on is the convocation, which is where all that religious stuff is supposed to happen.
Where there's a little bit more argument, but it's usually at the end of the day you have a compromise. Yeah. But here it's just like, no, we're not even doing that. You don't bring it here.
Yep.
You step in here, you're just a customer wanting drinks and some good times.
Yep. You check your issues with everyone else at the door.
So I'm excited to see more of Enlightenment, especially as the story goes on, because shit's about to go down on Jedha.
Like, High Republic Phase 1, we do hear about a couple of things. We hear that there is the Battle of Jedha.
And we're getting an audio drama that's of it. And apparently, I don't know when it's supposed to take place, because I don't know if it's occurring, like, if everything is coming out chronologically, like with Phase 1, or because I saw somewhere that on Wikipedia, they put it on the timeline as, like, before the stuff we've already read, and I'm like, that doesn't sound right, because I feel like the Battle of Jedha is something that's about to happen because of the path and everything that's dropping. Like, that's my... Like, I think everything's about to go down on Jedha, and we're going to get this big, like... Okay, yeah, see, they moved it. It was further up originally, but now on the timeline they've moved it. Which makes sense. Oh, issue 2 is out for the comic. I got to read issue 2. Yeah, Battle of Jedha is a little bit further now. So, and I feel like... Because in the first issue of the comic, not to give too much away, you can feel the tensions brewing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Like, there's tensions brewing, and I think the path is about to, like, take heavy advantage of that. And I think that's where we're going.
Fucking path.
Because also, Mother wants her rod of whichever one that one is.
Sunrise? Seasons?
Well, Seasons is the one that, not Marta, but Yana has.
Stars?
Sun. Yeah, I think it's the rod. I think it's the rod of sunlight.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, it's been a minute. But yeah, things are about to come to a head.
Mother wants a glow stick.
But yeah, so that's our thoughts on Tales of Enlightenment, New Prospects. Next week, we are going to be talking about the junior novel. I had it just a second ago. My brain just dropped what the name of it was. Quest for the Hidden City, that's right.
Yep.
Because there's a couple quest ones in this one, because this phase is called Quest of the Jedi, and so, like, that's the name of the phase. Yep. Or the phase. And so, because we're in Wave 1 of Phase 2. I know, confusing. But yeah, we're getting Quest for the Hidden City. And then I've been listening to Convergence, which is what we're going to do the week after that. Because I've gotten an early copy, so I've been listening to it. I've been liking it. And that's going to be our first adult novel in Phase 2. And then after that, and we'll talk Andor, because Andor's almost done. Only 2 more episodes. And we have a guest for that episode, which I'll announce when we get closer. Also, okay, so that's basically the end of the episode, but we do have a couple of, like, just little things to talk about for the channel.
Yeah.
We now have 200 subscribers on YouTube, which thank you very much to everybody that's made that happen.
Yeah. We appreciate it.
We did. So it took us 6 years to get to 100, and it took us about 2 years to get to 200. So I have a goal, because lately we've been getting a new subscriber every day, at the very least.
Yeah.
The goal is by the end of next year, 400.
Okay.
400 subscribers on the YouTube channel. I think it's possible.
I thought you were going to say a number a lot bigger than that.
No, I'm making it reasonable, because at the rate we are going, 400 is reasonable, because I think we could get maybe 250 before the end of this year if we keep going at the rate we're going. If we continue to have a good, steady rate of subscribers. Oh. So it wouldn't be impossible. The other goals that we're working towards is we are still trying to get that 100 followers on Twitch. We only need 2 more. Everything is starting to be rebranded. I haven't rebranded the TikTok yet. I should. But YouTube and Twitch now have the same name, Escape Reality Films. Easy to find now.
Yep.
Everything is youtube.com, Escape Reality Films, twitch.tv, Escape Reality Films. Easy peasy. And then, of course, patreon.com, Escape Reality Films, which also, ideally, I want to have a goal for next year for how many patrons we get. But I feel like that one's going to be a little harder to push for. So for now, I'm kind of just pushing for the reasonable goals that I can see within our future where I'm like, okay, we could do that reasonably. Like, here we go. Let me pull up the channel goals. I'm thinking I want to push for next year at least one more Toki tier patron, which is the tier that your mom's at, because that's the $10 tier, which gives us about $8.91 a month because Patreon takes their cut. If we can get at least one more, that will guarantee us about $17.82 per month. Now that's just the Toki tier. I'm not. If other people want to get the smaller tiers, feel free. Get the $1 tier, get the $5 tier, whatever. But as far as the goals, we're focusing on Toki tier. If you want to get more than that, also welcome. But we're just focusing on the Toki tier as our focus, because I feel like $10 is not a crazy ask.
Yeah.
I feel like if you really like our content and you can support us, $10 is not a crazy ask. Now, obviously, if you can't afford that's fine. Don't. We don't want to push you into subscribing through the Patreon. You do get benefits. There's a lot of stuff that we are throwing out there, but get what is affordable within your means. Like, if free is what works for you, just keep supporting us this way. Spread the best you can do as a free follower of our content is just spread the word to increase the Twitch followers. Maybe some Twitch subs as well if you have friends that are able to do that, because Twitch subs, that's $5 a month, I think is the basic. Like, Twitch subs are always just $5 a month. And so that's another way that helps us out. Or even just popping into a Twitch stream and using some of our our sounds that we put into there, because we have some fun little Star Wars sounds, and then stuff like that.
Pew, pew.
Yeah, the pew pew, or the it's a trap. Like, we got fun stuff to throw in. And so using the channel bits or the Twitch bits, that's another way to give us a little bit to support. Because we currently don't see any of that because we haven't hit the $50 amount that we can cash out with for Twitch. But Patreon, we can cash out immediately, like as soon as we get it. And we finally actually I've actually accessed the funds for the first time to buy something for the channel, because I have not been accessing the funds yet. I was like, I'm holding, and then I was like, okay, we finally need to use the money for the book next week for Quest for the Hidden City. So that's how realistically your money goes to support the channel, is whatever you give us does go into what we're doing. We don't spend it anywhere else. It's just going straight to the content. And then, I guess, I think we can announce it.
Are you sure? Ty's on board with it. So.
I think he's in the show. We just haven't figured out when we're going to start it.
Okay. I don't know why I thought this would do anything. So, are we announcing it now, or do we want to hold off for a little bit?
Let's just say that the 200 subscribers has pushed me to decide that we are going to start our next podcast very soon. The things we are waiting for are just timing things.
Yeah.
We're waiting on the right time for our third co-host, which we're going to get to join us. And also waiting for some other stuff, because I want to make it a little... So it's going to be a pre-recorded show.
Yeah.
Versus this, where it's live every time.
Well, usually.
And I want to fancy it up a bit and make it a little different than this show. where you know the difference between the shows, and you can be like, oh, this is Escape Reality Star Wars Talk, and this is the other show.
Yeah.
So I'm looking into a logo for the other show, and maybe a 10-second theme song just to fit the show. It's gonna be another. I will say it's another genre.
Yeah.
Podcast where we're talking about another genre franchise.
Things will be
different in that one because there will be. I'll say this: we'll have drinking. We're gonna have like us actively like Mystery Science Theater 3000 like riffing on shows and movies as we're watching it with you guys.
It will be a bit different. I was going to say a little bit more adult than this one.
But this one's pretty mature.
Yeah. No swearing in this stream so far, I think.
No, we had a little bit.
No.
I've dropped the F-bomb a couple times.
Ah.
I said fuck. So we're good.
Well, now you've definitely said it.
Now it's definitely rated R, because I've at least said it twice. And you only get the one in PG-13. But no. So, you know what? I'll announce it.
Okay.
We are doing a Highlander podcast. And we're calling it There Can Be Only One Podcast.
There you go.
Yeah. So that we don't know when we're going to start filming yet. We have been watching some movie like we've talked about on the show that you've watched the movies with me.
Yep.
So that's how that's part of the reason we were like we should do something with this.
The origin of like where it came about.
And we were like we should do something with this. And then we started watching the TV show.
Yeah.
Which is where the drinking game came in.
Yeah.
And
we was like, hey, these things happen like
at least yeah, it's at least enough that it's a pattern.
Yeah.
So we were like, let's make a drinking game with this. And then we were like, oh, if we're going to do this, let's just do a podcast.
Yep.
And then our third co-host walked in on us watching an episode one time and was like, oh, I'm in after watching that one episode. Like randomly in the middle of the first season, they were like, oh, I'm in with this idea. And now they've been with us ever since on watching a bunch of the episodes. So now we're going to backtrack and we're going to look at some of the books, some of the comics, and then the movies and TV shows. We're going to go through things in a specific pattern.
Yeah.
So rather than release order, which is initially how we started you, we're going to go more timeline order, which is going to change some things. It's going to involve us reading some books first, which even I haven't read. Because I haven't read the books or comics. I've seen every movie and every show. That's it. And then, of course, we'll also talk about news about the reboot, because there is a reboot that they are consistently teasing me with.
So from what I've gathered from the explanation that you... From what I have gathered
there we go.
From the explanation that you have given, I'm peeking into the red zone if I get any closer than this.
You're good.
Everyone wants to reboot it, but no one has decided on how.
Yeah, and it's I think it's a matter of timing and like getting everything together. And we'll talk more in detail in the first episode because in the first episode, besides the book that we're going to review, I do want to go over the history of the reboot that's in the works.
Yeah.
I want that to be in the first episode. So I'm going to save that because that in itself is a topic for the episode for the podcast, I think.
Right.
Like I think that's enough to cover an episode.
Okay.
But we'll also be on Reboot Watch throughout the podcast. So yes, I have been told by many of our friends of the channel that this is a very niche idea and they don't know if it will work, but darn it, I'm gonna do it.
It'll never catch on. They said.
We're gonna do it. Look, it'll be either way we'll have a good time and that's what matters.
Yep.
Even if we get one viewer a week,
that'll be enough.
That'll be enough to make it worth it, because we'll be getting drunk watching Highlander. But yes.
Come Connor McLeod.
We'll bring the
What
joke.
is a podcast?
It will make more sense when we get
there.
when we get there. Okay.
In all seriousness, though.
Yeah, in all
Thank you
seriousness.
to our
Yeah,
patrons.
thank you to everybody that's involved. Thank you to our patrons, Miss Jennifer. Thank you to everybody who subscribed to the YouTube channel, everybody who's a follower on Twitch. All of you are why we can do this, and why we're kind of like why we have the spirit to keep moving forward with this. Because like, as soon as we once we hit 200, I was like, okay, we can do this.
Yep.
Because like 100 is a good sign.
Yes.
1,000 is ideally where we want to go when we can monetize the YouTube side. But there's other things that I'm in the works of. Those of you who watch the Twitch more often may have noticed me experimenting a little with the Twitch channel, and that I've been trying to do almost like a TV network sort of thing where I just run stuff almost 24/7, where I've been showing reruns of content that we do. Oh gosh, I realized I haven't.
What's up?
I realized I made a mistake for this stream.
Oh, yeah?
And it's a mistake that I caught a friend on last time, that I caught them on a stream. So I went into the wrong dashboard because when I do the quick key on my internet browser, it's like, hey, that's the old name, because it still does the CJ Star Wars name. I forgot that. To check this as not a rerun for the stream, which may have been hiding the stream from some people.
I see.
Yes.
That may have been problematic.
It's fine. But yeah, I've been doing reruns of older content from the YouTube channel mostly at the moment, but we're also going to throw in some Twitch content. And I'm using it as like a TV network where we just show stuff that Escape Reality Films as a YouTube channel and I guess production company have done. A lot of it is Let's Plays. Some of it's our tabletop games. Some of it's our short films.
If you have watched the channel before, if you haven't, for lack of a better term, where I come from is a lot of the tabletop games.
Yeah.
That's where I originate from, if we're going from, like, channel stuff.
Yeah. And so the idea is to kind of just put it all together, make it like a TV station where it's mostly random, but like I've kind of edited versions of it to where I realized I don't even have all the content. Like, I've been downloading the YouTube content, so that way I can have it like it's all on one of these hard drives. So that way I can put it together to have these streams. And I've downloaded 197 files for this. And that's not all of the videos. And that brings it to, in watch time,
I remember
it's like 300 something hours, I think. It's taking a minute because it's that much. I hit the details button on the properties, and it's still loading it.
Well, while we wait for that to load, thank you to the Mobcast Network for...
Oh, 186, sorry. That's right. The 3 is coming from how many days of content it is. It's like 30-something, and it's just like... It's 186 hours, 17 minutes, and 6 seconds of content, to be precise.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of content. We have enough to where we could stream consistently for days and not show you the same thing if I did it right, which I haven't worked out the details for getting that done just right yet. But yes, let's go ahead and thank our fellow people that helped provide this now that we've done our Patreon. Once again, you can find the Patreon at patreon.com/Escape Reality Films. You can also find me on TikTok at Caleb Blockwood 5. You can find me on Twitter, as mentioned at the head, at Escape Reality 94, where I just talk about whatever, tweeting about whatever's going on. And then, of course, we got YouTube, youtube.com/Escape Reality Films, twitch.tv/Escape Reality Films. Everything is slowly being rebranded.
Yep.
let's go ahead and thank our friends at Mobcast Network who provide the space for us. They have their own podcast. You can find them at youtube.com/Mobcast Network. You can also find them on any podcasting app, something that we're eventually going to start working on. Because eventually we're going to do audio only for like Spotify and Apple, which is where you can find like Mobcast Network and all them. And they do My Star Wars Life, where I'm a producer and co-host, and we talk. Currently, we're dealing with Andor stuff. We're on break at the moment, so we haven't been on in the current of the episodes. We're a few episodes behind. Same thing with Cult Movie Cantina. We're still on break. Scotty's actually on vacation right now.
I was wondering why I hadn't seen him.
Yeah, he's on vacation right now. He's enjoying. He's having his best life. So he's having a good time, and when he gets back, we should be starting up with Cult Movie Cantina again soon.
Tuesdays with Scotty.
We have Tuesdays with Scotty, which are being filmed and put in the can.
Yep.
Kind of like how we're going to do with There Can Be Only One podcast. Once we get going with that, we're going to put a lot in the can, and then we'll start to release them slowly. And then I also want to thank Gamers and Geeks. Sorry, I brain farted there.
It's okay.
I want to thank Gamers and Geeks, who are our local gaming shop, who are the owners of the little gaming space that has the studio that Mobcast Network rents from them. And they have all your gaming tabletop needs, like we were talking earlier when we were talking tabletop miniatures games. They got miniature games, they got card games, they got an arcade in the back where it's free. It's basically the free to play arcade machines where you just you don't put coins in, you just press the button and start, and you just pay $10 for a wristband for the day, and you can play whatever you want for the day. Next, within the same building, we've got Engage Gaming, which is another like store, which is basically you can do a rental per hour fee of playing any console that they have on offer. So like in the they have a bunch of computers, a bunch of PlayStations, a bunch of Xboxes, some VR machine, and you just pay an hourly rate to play them. They even offer the games, and you can also if you pay a monthly membership fee, the hourly rate is decreased a little bit. So that's everybody.
Yeah.
And so once again, we'll see you guys next week. And let's go ahead and drop in. Let's raid a friend, because for Twitch we can do raids, and one of my friends is online, so I kind of want to raid her. So we're gonna do a raid. So if you're on Twitch, we're gonna drop in on my friend Bedazzler, Brooke.
Do you have a raid message?
And because she is playing Fortnite right now.
What should it be?
Let's do hello there, because it's Star Warsy. So whenever you drop in, just say hello there and let her know that, you know, we sent you.
Mm-hmm.
Let me make sure I'm doing everything right. Yeah. Because I don't raid often, so it's... There we go. All right. Thank you all for watching once again. I have spoken.
Have a good one.
Yeah. We'll be rating in 8, 7. We'll go into the outro for now.